we go, or some of them I may leave to the end if I need to jump to a different screen. But all of the questions will be answered throughout the session. So first things first, on the screen, you will be able to navigate to your self-assessment client by selecting the essay section in the clients square. So if we click on the 5 or the 3, we would then be able to see those 5 clients that are also self-employed. And at this point, you can either drill down into that self-assessment to begin producing it, or you can edit their details by selecting the edit button on the right-hand side. So this is what the self-assessment would look like from the top level. Okay, so we'll come back to that later. But also on the left menu, we have a section that is dedicated to self-assessment. So from an advisor perspective, you'll be able to see a top level view of some of the KPIs in relation to self-assessments. So your aged approvals, your aged questionnaires, the amount of self-assessments that have been filed, and the amount of self-assessments that are to be filed in the future. And then finally, we've got total clients. So the aged approvals are essentially any self-assessments that you've sent to client that haven't been signed off within a 30-day period. The age questionnaires is very similar, but it's the number of questionnaires that have been sent to clients that haven't been, that you haven't received a response in relation to for a 30-day period. Okay, and at the bottom here, we've got a table where you can see a list of all of your members of staff and the tax returns that are assigned to them, as well as the stages that each tax return is at. So one of the really useful features we have is that you can send tax questionnaires directly to all of your clients. And that questionnaire will essentially be a HTML page that the responses will come back into Nomisma once your client actually submits it. So in order to send this, if I change Ash Hall, select the questionnaire sent to load that, and then change it back to not started, save that, and then go back to my dashboard. So now that tax return is in not started, and I can send the tax questionnaire. But all I want to do is just check what email it is being sent to. So I can show you this one. Okay, so if I select email on the right side, I can then select tax questionnaire. So this is just a shortcut for me to send the tax questionnaire rather than going through the workflow, which would send it to all of your clients. But at this point, I can then select send and go back to the dashboard. So that tax return is now moved from not started to questionnaire sent. So that's your natural workflow. And as soon as your client submits that questionnaire, it will move from questionnaire sent to response received. And at that point, you would then be able to have the tax return or the tax questionnaire submission in the system ready for you to review it before populating the self-assessment itself. So I'm just going to open my emails and get that link that should have just come through. Great. So here it is. I'll copy this and I'll just need to open it in an incognito window. So new incognito. There you go. So once your client clicks the link in the email, this is the page they would see. So they can do it from a mobile phone or they can do it from a web browser. But in order to access the questionnaire, they'll need to confirm their date of birth. So I can't remember what date of birth I've entered for this client, but let's have a look. So 1st of the 1st, 2000. And then continue. So once I've got past that process, you can then see the tax information that has already been added to the self-assessment, and the client would be able to add more information to it. So if they decided that they actually have another employment in addition to this one, they can select add another employment, and then they can enter the details for that employment. So let's just say Nomisma, and then £100,000. Okay, and then at that point, they can then upload a P60 if they have a copy of it. And that P60 would be stored within the document section of their self-assessment. They can then decide that they have self-employment, where they can enter some basic information. We're not asking them for absolutely everything because chances are you've done the bookkeeping, or they've done it in a spreadsheet or something, or in the Nomisma itself. But at the top here, the first question is, or statement, if we do the bookkeeping or run the payroll for your business, you don't need to mention it below. Please only include information which we are not already aware of. Okay. But they can answer yes or no to many of these questions, and you would get the information back into the system. So I'll just select save and next. There's a validation message on that. So if we save and next now, let's be 17. Okay, let's just copy this one. And then there's another list of questions which you can run through. You will be able to see all of these on screen. So if I go back to the previous pages and select self-assessment, when you go into send tax questionnaire or tax questionnaire reminder, you can select all of your clients, create your email, and then you can see a list of all of the questions that are asked. So instead of having to go into the questionnaire itself, you can always do this. Okay, and then save and next. And then once your client is happy with that questionnaire, they can then review and submit it and just go through the information that they've put into the questionnaire. Submit. The submission is now successful. So then they get taken to our website. And once that's done in the system, the tax return is moved from questionnaire sent to response received. And I have actually just received an email in my inbox just with confirmation of the tax questionnaire. So now that that tax return has gone from not started to questionnaire sent to response received, this is when you'll then be able to pick up the tax return and begin producing it. So if I go into the tax return itself and select import data from questionnaire, here I can see the information that was just added to the questionnaire submission. And you can then decide to fill the tax return or not to. So if I decide that I want to fill with both of them, I can come to the bottom, select save, and then it will add both of those entries. Now, I know I've actually added the first employment previously, so it will be in there more than once. So if I go to employment now, you can see there I've got Ashall in there 3 times and Nomisma in there once. This icon is just highlighting that it is fetched from the tax questionnaire. So you can see if you've all of the ones you've entered manually, all of the ones you've got from HMRC, and the ones that you've got from the tax questionnaire. So a question has just come in. Will we be able to insert our own attachment for the client to complete, i.e. a property spreadsheet? You can send a separate email if you wanted to your clients, and you can create your own email templates, which I'll show you shortly. And you will be able to attach property spreadsheets to that if you wanted to. Okay, so in this section now, if you decided that you wanted to edit this or delete them, you can. And you can also add new employment income manually, as well as link employments from the payroll module. So if I search Hall, we should be able to find some. There you go. So I can see there's many or limited companies that have been added into Nomisma where I can link to this account, but the POE reference in each of those accounts were actually wrong. So, but one of them has just been pulled through. So AAA Solutions Limited, and we can see that's now linked with the payroll module. Okay. So in addition to being able to send the questionnaire and link payroll to Nomisma, you can also get data directly from HMRC. So in the top right-hand corner, just to the right of import data from questionnaire, you've got this get data from HMRC. So that doesn't work by default. There is a setup process to that. And you can do that by going to the agent screens and then selecting HMRC data setting. And then in this page, all you need to do is select read token. That will then take you to the HMRC platform, and you'll just need to follow the instructions. And at the end of that, it will take you back to Nomisma and it will populate these two fields. So once these two fields are populated, you'll then be able to use the get data from HMRC button, which will pull through any employment income, any benefits in kind that have been included on the employment, as well as any annuities, pensions, and job seekers allowance, and any other benefits. So that's really rather useful just to verify that you have got all of the information you need. And going back to the agent level, so still not producing the tax return just yet, the other really useful features we've got is the fact that there's a work pool. So in this work pool, within your practice, if you have multiple members of staff, one way you can operate is that none of the tax returns are assigned to anyone. So they could all just be unassigned. And you can begin allocating them to different members of staff. So in this section, you could have, say, 200 tax returns. And as and when each member of staff finishes tax returns, they can go into the work pool and pick up the next tax returns to produce. That will then be taken out of the work pool, allocated to their own person, ready to produce the tax return. Okay. So coming on to the question that was asked in relation to the property spreadsheet. So you can create your own email templates within Nomisma. And this is where I would suggest creating that template. So here you can enter your template name, add your subject, your status, and in the email body, you can actually copy your email signature. So if I just get mine, copy that, put that in there, I can see my entire email signature has been populated, and then you can write your body content. And here, to make it personalized for every single client, you can use tags. So we can put client first name, can so I'm just typing an email asking them to complete this spreadsheet in order to finalize your rental income. And then you can use that email template for every single one of your clients. So if I just add property income request, save that. So now that template has been added. And when you go into the schedule email section, you'll be able to see all of your clients in bulk, and you can then begin scheduling emails to them at a point in the future if you wanted to advise them about their payments on account, or you can do it for the new tax year. So you can begin being proactive rather than reactive and sending the emails as and when you need to. So here you could email all clients, or you just you could select the ones that just have rental property income. So if I now schedule an email, so here I can select the email template that I want to send, and you can attach the spreadsheet that you want to attach to that email. And then you can select the point in time that you would like to send this on, and you can change the time as well. Oh, I just clicked on the background. Yeah. And then we've got the subject, the body content, and you will then be able to schedule that. So if I put that in the future, schedule that email. So it's being sent to 5 individuals. The system's now processing that. So 5 emails are scheduled to be sent on the 27th of August at midday. So in the top right-hand corner, you can actually view all of your scheduled emails. And if you decided that you wanted to change the time, you can edit it, or you can delete it, so it won't be sent. Okay. So I hope that answers the question. Do let me know if it doesn't. But you can pretty much create any email templates that you can imagine there. If I just go back to the email templates and show you the tags that can be used. So we've got account manager, accountant, address first line, second line, current tax year, deadline for first payment on account, first payment on account due, which will be the amount, second payment on account due. So you can really build flexible emails which will be personalized to every single one of your clients. And you can also use the UTR number followed by the K as the payment reference. Okay. So now then, moving on to actually producing a tax return, I've still got Alan Test open. So in this tax return itself, you can see some of your key figures in the top right-hand corner, and you can also see the work status notes. So this contains changes to the tax return that have been made and the statuses that it's moved from and to. So it's kind of like an audit trail of your tax return activity. So here we can see the tax return status changed to questionnaire sent, and then it was changed to not started. And we can see the date and time it was changed as well. But if you wanted to edit it or view it, you can. And you can also download that to a CSV. In most places in the system, we make sure all of the data that you need can be downloaded. But you can also add a new note. And then on the right-hand side, you've just got your internal notes section where you can just type in notes. So Reese did a webinar on the 7th. I can't remember what the date is today, but I can just put in there and save that. So that note will then be saved for anyone else that may be working on the tax return. And then at the bottom here, we have quick access to various different pages of the tax return. So you can quickly jump to different sections in order to begin populating the pages. So if I wanted to add some dividend income, you can select edit, and you can then add other dividends, foreign dividends, or tax taken off foreign dividends. So if we put 1,500, and then here we can link a dividend from a bookkeeping profile that you're doing bookkeeping for. So if we then search Hall, I can see there's a few different companies here that we could link dividends from. But in this company, I'm a director, but not a shareholder. Okay. So I can link that. That will then pull through all of the information from that bookkeeping profile, and you can see I haven't got any dividends from that company. But you can also make manual entries as well. Save. And then that will be stored in the list. And if we just put that in, save that. So moving on to the next section, you can quickly jump to pages that relate to dividends or are similar to dividends by using the menu at the top here, or you could go back to the dashboard, which isn't necessarily efficient, but you also have the ability to go to different pages on the left menu here. So we've grouped together all of your income, all of your tax reliefs, and any other pages as well. We've also got the additional information, so you can quickly navigate to them. So if we just go through a few of the options on the left menu, we can have a look at income from property. So in the example that you do have a landlord client, you may not necessarily use a software to do the bookkeeping for them at the moment, but it may be changing in time for SAMTD by 2023. However, now you may be doing the working papers on an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. So you can come here, enter all of the information you need. You can also use our multiple property wizard if you had a client with more than one property. But once you finish with the working papers, you can also upload them into the document section on the left menu. So on the left menu, if we open documents, just let that load. On the right-hand side here, you can upload any supporting documents, working papers, or anything else that would help you produce this tax return, or anything that would remind you that that's why you've entered that on the tax return. So you just need to select upload document and you'll be able to do so. But in addition to that, you'll see here, I've also got my self-assessment checklist. So this is the submission that has been made through the link that I showed you earlier. So if I wanted to view that, you can see a list of all of the questions and all of the answers that have been given. You've got its date and time stamped as well. So absolutely everything's there. So that just gives you confirmation that the client has filled in the questionnaire. You've got your checklist and you don't have to worry about downloading it, storing it anywhere, because it's all just synchronized into the system for you. So moving back to the income and looking at income from property, at this point, you can go through the process of adding new income. And you can then enter all of the property details. So their address, whether or not you're claiming rent a room relief, is it a furnished or unfurnished UK property? And then you can move on to income, your expenses, and we've got our expense types here for you, as well as adjustments that need to be made, residential finance costs, and capital allowances. So you can add pools into the capital allowances section in order to keep track of that as well and make sure you're claiming the right allowance. So if we cancel that and go back to the property income summary, once you've entered all of that information, it will populate these boxes for you as well. But if you just have one rental property, you can go through the process of entering it and you can do it at a top level. Okay. So then we've got employment, which we've already touched on, but you can go through the process of adding it manually. So you've got your employment details, any benefits they've got, their expenses, and then earnings from P60 if you need that section. Okay, so the benefits and expenses would be the items from their P11D. And then we've got self-employment. So in line with SAMTD, for anyone that has done research on it at the moment, and not to go into too much detail, the SAMTD will mean that anyone that is self-employed or anyone that is a landlord will need to enroll for it and begin doing quarterly submissions from 2023 onwards. Now, Nomisma as a whole we are planning for that at the moment. We're liaising with HMRC as well as an organization called BASDA so that we can have our say in terms of what should happen with SAMTD. And we're beginning to plan for exactly how we're going to handle it within the system. And the good news is that we are already ahead of the curve in terms of other suppliers that are beginning to try and get ready for this. Some aren't even putting the effort in. But we have already created the links between a bookkeeping profile and a self-assessment. So all we need to do is build a mechanism that is somewhat similar to a VAT return in the sense that it will look at the bookkeeping and then it will populate the SAMTD return on a quarterly basis ready for you to submit. So we're not too worried about it, and we're actually quite excited about it because we can really help everyone get up and running with that. There's a question that has just come in. So are these documents visible to the client? The answer to that is no. So from a self-assessment and tax and accounts perspective, your client's not able to log in to access their self-assessment. They're also not able to log in to produce a self-assessment or file a set of accounts or corporation tax return. We've actually made a commitment to all of our bookkeepers and accountants that we won't be doing that in the future either, because we recognize that there are a few companies out there now that are labeling tax as easy or bookkeeping as easy. And we as a company, it's our values that we completely disagree with that. And we recognize the importance of accountants and bookkeepers in the relationship with a business owner and what you bring to the table. So from my perspective, having worked in practice, I feel like the profession is slightly devalued sometimes in the messaging that is out there. So we really want to help revitalize that side of things. And as a result, that's why we've made that commitment. So the documents in the self-assessment section wouldn't be visible to the client, no, because they simply wouldn't be able to log into these pages. Okay, so moving on then. So self-employment, you can pull through the trial balance from a bookkeeping profile into the self-employment section. And that will create a link. So you can see here, this sole trade limited. I know it's a limited company. It is actually a sole trade in Nomisma, but we just typed in limited as the company name. But it is a linked company. So all of the income from that sole trade is being pulled through to the self-assessment. But if you wanted to view it, you can go through and view all of the details in relation to that company. So we've got their income, their expenditure, which there isn't any, capital allowances, taxable profit and loss calculation. And this is where you would put in the self-employment income support scheme grant. That's a common question at the moment. Where does it go? And that's exactly where it goes. So self-employment, taxable profit and loss calculation, 70.1, self-employment income support scheme grant. And then we've got our loss utilization, CIS and any other tax deductions, and the balance sheet. So you'll notice here that it has put in the £100,000 into trade debtors. So because it pulls through the trial balance, it will do your income, expenditure, and your balance sheet. So most of the entries will be automated for you. Okay. So once you're happy with that, you can then save it and it will be added to the tax return. And in future years as well, that link will maintain, and it will mean that you only need to link it once and the link will always be there. Okay, so you can also do the same with partnerships, which is exactly the same. The capital gains will be manual entries. Oh, not sure what happened there. So where this is a test account, I think there's a problem on my test account. But that should work on yours, but it will just allow you to go through and enter the capital gain information for your client. And then we've got foreign income as well. And trusts, yeah. So there's a bit of an issue on my account with capital gains, foreign income, and trusts. However, that shouldn't be there on yours, like I said. But that all three of those pages are manual entries, so you will there's no links to bookkeeping or anything like that. And then we've got our tax reliefs, so we can enter pension contributions, any charitable giving, if they're claiming blind person's allowance, as well as marriage allowance. And then in the others section, we've got our student loan repayments, high income benefit charges, coronavirus grant, if it's incorrectly claimed. So you don't have to enter this here every time, it's only for incorrect claims. Any underpaid tax from previous tax years, really important one to include, otherwise HMRC will recalculate the tax and send you a tax revision letter if you haven't looked at their tax code to see if there is any underpaid tax in their tax code. Then we've got payments on account, our adjustments to tax due, and finally any other information if you want to include any notes on the tax return. So then we've got the additional information. So there's quite a few pages here. I won't spend too long on them because we have got a few more bits to cover on this session. We've got the gains from life insurance policies, stocks, dividends, and bonus issues, and a few other pages as well. One of the nice things with Nomisma is that it does cover every scenario that you would need in a self-assessment. So if you're not able to find it, then you can get in touch with our support team and we can help you over the phone or via email. Okay, so once you're happy with that, you can then move on to finishing your tax return, where you can enter any tax refunded or set off, as well as if they haven't paid enough tax. So if they've got high income child benefit charges, or if they owe less than £3,000, they'll try and collect it through the tax code of the individual. You can also decide how the tax refund should be paid, and signing the form and sending it back if you are doing it in the post. So there is one question that's just come in relation to getting coronavirus grants received from HMRC. Very good question. We can't at the moment, but we're just working on linking it into Nomisma so that you will be able to. It's in our development plans right now, so hopefully it will be done very soon. And as soon as it is done, we'll let everyone know via email or an in-app shout out, so that you'll know. But yeah, the plan is very, very soon. Okay, so on the tax return, sorry, the tax payments made section, you can enter any tax payments that they've already contributed towards HMRC, and then that will reflect on the tax return, i.e. if they've made the payments on account already, then you can enter that in there. Okay, and then we've got the residence status. So all in relation to residency, and there's a lot of boxes and fields to populate here, but by doing so, you'll be able to go through the automatic overseas test, and it will then put together the residency status for your client. Okay, so every single field that you need is here. And then finally, once you're happy with the tax return, you've populated it and it's correct, you can go to the review tax calculation section where you'll be able to see all of the entries that have been made. So we can see dividends from UK companies. We've also got foreign dividends, profit from self-employment, and pay from all employments. So as you scroll down, you'll be able to see the tax calculations, which you can just review and approve of. And then we've also got the ability to review the SA 100 itself on the screen. So instead of downloading it all of the time, you can do it all within the web application. So the self-assessment does take a little bit longer to load, but it's because it's putting together all of the information and building that form for you. It shouldn't take too long. But yeah, there you go. So we can see that on screen now. And as I scroll down, you'll just see that all of the boxes are populated for you. So there is no manual adjustments that you need to do. Okay, so I won't spend too long on this, but you can see as I scroll down. So once you're happy with that, you can then either email it to your client or you can go and submit it to HMRC. So you can enter your HMRC credentials in order to submit directly to HMRC. And you can also enter any additional notes for HMRC there. In addition to that, if you wanted to attach a document to send to HMRC, you can as well. So once you're happy, select submit or validate first to confirm that it will submit. Once you've validated it, you can then send it to your client because you've confirmed that this is correct. I'm not going to need to amend this now as I validated it. So my process would be produce the tax return, validate it, then send it to your client for approval because you will be 100% sure that this will be able to be submitted. If you don't do that, then you could send it to your client for approval and then receive it back, try and submit and get a failed notification and then have to request approval again. And ideally, it's best to avoid that. Or if you filed this tax return in another manner, i.e. through the HMRC portal or via paper or by another software, you can mark it as filed. And then once that is filed, you will be able to view the submission report to see the submission message that has been given back from HMRC, either to confirm that it is successful or that it's failed. And if it has failed, you'll be able to see the reason why it's failed. So I mentioned being able to send it via email as well. So there's this communication section on the left menu where you can see all of the emails that have been sent in relation to the self-assessment, and you can send emails from here as well. And at the bottom here, you can see you can attach the documents that are produced by Nomisma to the email. In addition to that, you can also attach any documents that have been uploaded to the documents section on the left menu to this email as well. And if you click on the link, it will load that document. Okay. So that is the email section. There is one question that's just come in. So as a bookkeeper, can I give access to other accountants so that they can review and submit to HMRC? You would be able to. So in your account, you can select users and you can add a new accountant user. However, they would have access to other clients' information of yours. So you may not want to do that. But if it was an accountant in your practice, you can. We are working on limiting what your staff members would be able to see, and we're trying to think of a way to do that in a more efficient manner because we don't want to make it overly complicated that nobody uses it or it confuses everyone. So we're trying to come up with a simple way so that you can decide exactly what clients they will be able to see and what clients they won't be able to see. Something that we are toying with the idea of is potentially internal passwords for certain clients and account managers, accountants, and different role types for different businesses. So yeah, answer to your question, you would be able to give them access. They would be able to see all of your client information within your Nomisma account. So you may not want to, but we recognize that kind of relationship and also other relationships with members of staff that you may not want them to access all of your clients. So we're thinking about ways as to how we can do that. Okay. So in terms of self-assessment, we've covered pretty much everything there in terms of what Nomisma has to offer. As you can see, it's designed from a workflow perspective and your workflow where you can do things in bulk and you can see a top level view as to where every tax return is in the production pipeline. But in addition to that, to try and help with your workflow and your communications between yourself and your clients, we've also developed a mobile app. So if I go Nomisma SA Android, here I can select Android apps by Nomisma and select self-assessment. So on this self-assessment section, we've got this mobile app, which links directly to the web application. And on the web application, when you change the statuses, some of these statuses will actually send out push notifications for your client to perform an action. So for example, when you change it from not started to questionnaire sent, your client will receive a notification that says your advisor needs more information in order to produce your self-assessment. They'll be able to click that and fill in the questionnaire on their mobile phone rather than doing it through an email and a web browser. So on the mobile phone here, I don't know whether I have a screenshot of the questionnaire itself. I don't. But the questionnaire, there would be a button that says submit questionnaire, and then they can go through and fill in all of the questions. In addition to that, you can see here the tax return's been approved by the client, so they can view their tax return, and they can also view the taxes that are due to be paid to HMRC. There's also a button that they can click that will take them to the HMRC portal. And one of the nice things with the mobile app is it's free within every package, so you can use it now. And in order to set it up, you have complete control over the relationship because this is your tool. So on the left menu, you can select users and you can create new business users so that they can log into the mobile app. And you would then be able to decide exactly what self-assessment they can access, as well as what business they can access from a bookkeeping perspective. So in order to do that, on the user in question, you'll need to select the three dots and then assign SA. So in the assign SA section, you can then search for their name or Alan. I know that's the one we've been working on. So once you find the self-assessment, you can then assign it. And at that point, the client will then be able to use their login credentials to access the mobile application. And the bookkeeping side of things is separate, so they can just have the mobile app on its own. So that's it from me in this session. I will stop recording now so that if anyone wants to ask any questions, we can go ahead. So